All right, so we're gonna go ahead and begin. I have Ms. Welts here. Famous TikToker, famous welder. She does great work. You want to introduce yourself and tell everybody what you do?
Yes. So my TikTok and Instagram handle is at miss.welds, but my name is Sharon Guerrero, and I work in Houston, Texas. My specialty as of right now is TIG welding. I do a lot of aluminum, like 90% aluminum, and some stainless when needed. And I've been welding for professionally like 2 years, but I also went to school. And yeah, that's me.
How did you get into the welding industry? Because before I started recording, I was telling you that I didn't really meet other female welders, and I know you shared your story, but I know there's a lot of guys or people that follow me that might not follow you, and they want to hear how you got into it.
I don't mind repeating it all the time. It's one of my most asked questions, from people who have never come across my page. Well, honestly, I guess I was always interested. I wouldn't say specifically in welding, but I was always interested in like a trade. Ever since I was in high school, and I remember like some of my high school homeboys, they were like doing welding, like welding classes, and I remember asking them like, "Oh, like can girls do that?" Like I don't know, my
Right.
interest was already spiked from that point, but I never tried it because I was always like scared that I can't do it. It's not for me. And I just always left it alone. I did a lot of just waitressing jobs, like waitress after waitress all the time. And it was eventually in 2020, or like sadly, like, my best friend, she passed away. And, I started to get all like in my feelings and thinking about life. And I was like, I started thinking like, you know what? Like I'm gonna try it. If I fail at it, oh well. Like life is too short to not try something that you want to do. And then I enrolled into like welding classes because I have like no family members that do any trade. So I had nobody to like give me a push into the field or advice or nothing. So I just did school and I learned what I needed to learn and I went off from there.
Oh, cool. So, what type of school did you do? Did you go to the trade school or you did community college?
I did a community college because that was what one of my homeboys that he was like the only welder I knew, and he was like, I went to a community college like right by where we live, and he recommended it to me, and also it was good for me because since I wasn't making a lot of income with like my kids and my husband and stuff, we weren't making that much, so I qualified for financial aid. So the whole time I was in school, I didn't pay anything. And I learned flux core, stick, MIG, TIG on pipe, on structural. I learned acetylene welding. I learned how to cut. I learned how to do everything. Like if I would have just thrown myself into a job, I would have been so lost if I wouldn't have went to school.
Oh, so they actually did you take any courses that you felt like you didn't need to take? Like you know how sometimes you have to write papers or math or anything like that?
So as far as like the welding part of it, no, like we didn't have to do any like I think our teachers because they have to, we would do like a little test online, like a safety quiz, but it was like easy questions, like about PPE and just like more simple things. So I don't think any of it was a really like a waste of my time. They also made us do blueprint reading, which honestly I'm really grateful for because the job I have now is like I really actually didn't start from like scratch. I kind of knew what I was like looking for and what I was looking at. But I actually did something a little bit different as far as like welding school. Whenever I first enrolled into welding school, I just wanted to do like combo welding. I just wanted to, learn what it is, how it works, and then boom, like go into a refinery or something. I wanted to be out quick. But I guess my one of my teachers, like I guess she saw something or she kind of pushed me a little bit more and she encouraged me to actually get an associate's degree and welding, and she told me like, look, for jobs this ain't gonna mean, it's not gonna mean nothing, this degree. She's like, but she's like, you can always go back to another college and you can teach and you can save your body, and you can just, it's a very like good paying job, and you're not gonna be doing the work you're gonna be doing out there. And so for that reason, I was in school for welding for a while. I was like there for like a year and a half. I had to do also like actual academic classes for like the associate's degree. And I did a lot of stuff that people will be like, that's so unnecessary for welding. Which honestly, like if you don't want to teach, if you don't want to do stuff like what I want to do, yeah, it's useless. Just get an apprenticeship and go from there. But for me, I really enjoyed learning everything I learned. And I think it's going to be really useful for me, once I'm like tired of using like, working with my body and stuff. I think it'll do me good. So, yeah, that's as far as like my education with that.
No, actually, I think it was a few years back that I actually got a job offer for to be an instructor, but one of the
Mhm.
requirements was I had to have an associate's degree. And at the
Yeah.
time I have an associate's degree in something else, but I wasn't done with it. So I mean it's always good. I did consider it because you're going to be an instructor and you're not climbing scaffolds, and
Yeah.
especially as you get older, your knees hurt a little bit more and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So it's good. I mean, it's not necessarily a bad thing. It's good because you have a plan laid out, right? But I do tell kids if that's not something that they want to do eventually, well then I mean,
It's a
uh
waste of time, kind of.
what do you what I know that I've seen you on several welding schools. I've never interacted with any welding schools. Would you say that there's a big difference between a trade school and community college as far as what they teach you?
Yes. So I'm going to be honest. Yeah, there is. Like, if they both have a lot of pros and cons for me. So what I see from trade schools, they're gonna teach you more real life things. Like they're gonna teach you these out of position. They're gonna teach you these like what is it, restricted welding and like all this other kind of stuff that's gonna be good for you. And community colleges, they're just your booth and go in there and put your little piece and done. And trade schools are also faster. They're like a lot like shorter pace. Like if you want to just learn something quick, a trade school will probably be your best bet. Because for community college, they're per semester. Like you have to be there a whole semester to get the class done.
Right.
But then again, trade schools, a lot of them, like even if they have financial aid, you still end up paying like thousands and thousands, and that's tough. Like sure, you'll make the money back most likely, but in a community college, like if well like me, like I didn't have the money to pay like that, or get myself into debt. And I learned everything I learned, and I got my degree, and I never paid anything. And also I have two children, and at that time they were babies. They're like 1 and 2, and the college, actually I got a grant from the college for being like a woman in like technical industry thing. And so they offered me a grant, and I could put my kids in their daycare for free while I was learning. So that
That's
was like really good for me. So it's like I could see the pros and the cons of both, but I can't speak too much on trade schools because I've never actually like been in one as far as like learning. You know what I mean?
So, I mean, I guess a positive side of going to community college is, you can apply for financial aid and you can pretty much get your training, and,
Yeah.
you won't have to pay for it, if
Yeah.
you qualify for financial aid. So that's pretty positive.
Or also from what I know in a community college, in their like mechanical, diesel, all that stuff, like welding, everything, even if you have to pay out of pocket, maybe for a class you'll pay like 3, 4, $500. In a trade school you'll pay like $6,000. It's a huge difference either way. So that's the for me that's a pretty good con. I mean, a pretty good pro for a community college.
All right, so I'm gonna ask you probably the one of the top rated questions you get asked all the time. How did you find work when after you finished your school?
So, man, I don't really share this often. Because like, I mean, I'm not embarrassed by it anymore, so I'll share it now. But I didn't used to talk about it because it would embarrass me. But whenever I first graduated, a lot of people didn't want me. A lot of jobs didn't want me because you're just like this, like brand new, like out of welding school, like they know you don't know nothing, like or you know something, but they don't want you messing up their stuff. And I really struggled to get a job. I looked around, I couldn't find one for a long time, and honestly, for a while, I gave up for like 2 to 3 months. I didn't even look no more. I was like, man, this isn't for me. Like nobody's ever gonna hire me. Like I was like being a quitter and stuff. And I don't know. One day I was like, man, like I'm like stop being sorry for myself and like go and look for something. And that day, what I would do a lot was I would go to shops like in person, like shop by shop and be like, "Hi, are y'all hiring? Hi, are y'all hiring?" And eventually, boom, I hit one. They're like, "Yeah, like what do you know how to do?" And I was like, "I know this and that." And he was like, "Okay, yeah, come tomorrow and like start working." It was like a very, very beginner job, but it was how I got started, and that's where like that was like that man, like I'm really grateful to that man because he really like opened up that opportunity for me, to like for me to be like, okay, like I got this, and I'm thankful for him for hiring me.
That's good. So that's the advice that I always give these kids. The same thing. It's like you got to go and knock on a lot of doors,
Mhm.
and everybody's gonna tell you no, but somebody eventually is gonna tell you yes. Is that pretty much what it boils down to? I mean,
Yeah.
everybody's got to go through that, right?
Yeah, a lot of kids like do message me like, "Hey, I just especially right now, not right now, but a few months ago, where it was like graduation was just happening, and all these kids were asking me the same question. I was like, just don't give up. A lot of people are gonna tell you no, but eventually you're gonna hit one, and that's gonna be opportunity to get your experience. So just take it.
Yeah, I mean, even kind of going back down to maybe a helper position, but you want to get your foot in the door, and then
Yeah.
eventually doors start opening up, right?
Like, shoot, I'm not even gonna lie. Even me right now, like I'm pretty good at welding TIG structural, but like I even think about it, sometimes I want to get into a refinery, because they pay more than shops. But the thing is, like, you got to know people and you got to be able to like, you got to work your way in there too. So even sometimes now I'm like, look, if someone's gonna hire me as a helper at a refinery, I'll take it. Like honestly, like I'm not embarrassed to say, like I'll take it, and then show them that I can do it, and try to do something else, and but I'm like, sometimes, yeah, like, you start off as a helper and there's no shame in that either.
Yeah, you already understood the grind. Sometimes you got to
Yeah.
go back from the bottom and then build your way up. So,
Yeah.
like I was telling you earlier, a lot of times I get a lot of questions from women, and I know that there's probably 16, 17, 18-year-old kids that watch you that are women, and they might be wondering, could I do this? Can are they going to treat me different? What's your whole experience, working in the field around a bunch of male dominated industry?
Yeah. So for me, I've had an overall good experience. I really haven't had any negative experience that's really like impacted me or like made me want to quit or anything. But one thing I will say, I am very like I present myself in a way where I'm like, look, I respect myself and you're gonna respect me and I'm gonna respect you and that's it. And usually that's always worked. Like my male coworkers have never told me anything out of line or tried to harass me in any way, either verbally or physically or anything. But I will say that I have seen it happen to other women that I have worked with. They're just and it's not that they were like crazy and like they were just too nice, and sometimes dudes might see that as an opportunity, and they take advantage of that. So every woman might have a different experience, but all I can say is like, just show them that you're just there to work and that you respect yourself and they are going to respect you back, and if anything does happen out of line, like you have choices, like there you can report it, like girl, like I know a lot of people are like, oh, don't do HR, like that snitch stuff, like no, go report it, like do it. But as far as getting treated differently as a woman in a job, you are going to get treated differently. But for me, it hasn't been in a negative way. Like sometimes it's like kind of like weird, like they don't want me to do certain things. They're like, oh, like she's going to get hurt. Don't let her do that. Like if like I'm kind of like a baby or something. But they're not doing it from like a bad place. They're doing it as a way, like they just see you as like, they see you as a woman, and like they're just like, oh, like they want to like protect, because that's like instinct is like to protect a woman, I guess, but they might do stuff like that, or they want to help you a lot. Like they're like, oh, like they're always trying to change my gas tanks until I'm like, I got it, like I appreciate it, but I'm good, brother. Like, but that's the way that I've been treated differently, I guess, is like they try to help me a lot. And which isn't a bad thing. So I mean that's just for me though. I know other women have other experiences.
I mean, I could see how you say that, because
Mhm.
maybe you remind them of their daughter, or
Yeah, I hear that a lot
like
too.
that. So
Yeah.
it's totally understandable. Well, I
Yeah.
mean, that's good. I'm glad that you haven't experienced any. I've heard several stories, but not too many. I think that there are kind of disrespectful, men out there in the field, but it's good that you say that you have to conduct yourself in a professional manner, and
Yeah.
it looks like you don't take no crap from anybody, so that's a plus, and that's what you kind of have to do, even if you're young. Like when you come into the field as a maybe 17, 18-year-old kid in the field, them older guys, they'll try to put their foot on your neck, and if you just let it happen, they're just gonna walk all over you.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah,
mean,
that's true. Yeah, then I guess and I would also want to say maybe it doesn't happen to me because I'm 20. Well, I'm about to be 27. So I'm not like a young little girl. Like I'm a grown ass woman. So I guess like I don't accept any disrespect or any kind of like harassment or like I just people know like I'm not gonna put up with that. But there is a lot of young girls that come in and they're still very like sweet and like they're trying to just be friendly, trying to like make good friends there because they're new and then these guys see them so young and like a little like vulnerable and they want to like take advantage of that. So that's why like I'm saying everybody I've had very young girls like friends of mine that work in different states and they like send me these horror stories of stuff that's happened to them.
wow.
And thankfully in their case they've been fired, like the guys end up getting fired, but these girls are like I don't know what to do, like I think I'm just gonna leave. And I'm like no, go report it. And they report it and the dude gets fired because it'll be like horrific stuff. And it's because they're very very young. And that's why when I have very young girls in my messages, I do try to reply to as many as I can. But sometimes it's too much. So I'm glad that, we can talk about this here and you can also share it for other young girls to see as well.
So I mean, I know that you get a lot of hate on TikTok from it's usually from people that don't even weld, or just random people, because
Yeah.
I know the feeling, you know what I mean. But that's good that you are having a positive influence, and believe it or not, there's a lot of young girls that probably look up to you, and so I just want to tell you, don't stop, because there are young girls that are looking up to you and be like, well, I want
Yeah.
to be like her, in a few years. So don't stop doing it, man.
Yeah, and I think that that's who I post for. Like it's such a good feeling whenever I post something and a video hits or something and a lot of young girls see it. And I've even met people in person. Like it'll be like my baby cousin. He's like I don't know how he's like very young, like 19, 20. He'll be like, dude, my friend joined welding school because he saw your videos. And I'm like, shut up. It's like even in real life, I'll meet young girls in welding events and they're like, I actually signed up for this school because I saw you and it like motivated me and it made me feel like I could do it too. And I'm like, hell yeah. Like that's what I post for. I know there's a lot of people who are gonna just troll and hate and stuff, and sometimes I'll feed into it, and sometimes I won't. But whether I do or don't, like I'm like that's not even the point of me posting. Like the reason why I post is because like I love seeing like the younger generation get inspired to do something they want to do. You know what I mean?
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Now another thing that I also want to ask you is, there's a lot of single moms that also ask me questions, and how do they balance being a tradesman, not just a welder, and having kids? Do you think it's harder to do that?
Yes. It's honestly it's hard if you don't have like a good support system, it can be really, really challenging because in these like blue collar jobs, they don't like it when you miss work. They don't like it when you got to take off. They don't like it when your kid is sick and the daycare won't take them. They don't like that, and sometimes like you do it too much and they'll let you go. And it sucks because you have kids, they're always sick. There's always something happening. But thankfully for me, my husband, like he's very very involved with our children. He helps a lot. Honestly, like I just wake up and go to work and he'll drop the kids off at daycare and then I'll pick them up. And then if daycare won't accept them, I have my mother-in-law, I have my mother, I have my sister, I have like a whole village, you can say. But I can see like if I didn't have them, this field would be very very hard. It's very difficult with children. And I know I have a lot of moms that message me about that too. And I want, I'll just be like, try to find a job that's going to fit that schedule. Like And it's tougher. It is tougher, you know, and that's how I talked to you earlier about how I've wanted to do refinery jobs, but I can't. That's one of the main reasons I can't do refinery jobs because they want me there. You know, they want you there like 5, 6 in the morning. Daycare's not open till 6:30, and you know, it's like certain situations that it wouldn't work out for me at the moment. So yeah, having children as a woman in the trades, it is a little bit more difficult.
But you can still make it work because I mean, a lot of people think that when you become a welder, you have to travel, but you're making it
No,
work. You find a shop there
yeah,
locally. You're from Houston, right?
yes,
So you
and
work
I've
at a
never
shop.
left Houston for work. So and that's what I try to tell women who you know ask me that. I'm just like, there's a lot of shops where they're gonna open. You know, they want you there like at 7, and you have enough time to go take them to babysitter or wherever you know you or school or whatever. Um, and then you know like work from there. You know, like every like I'm like just get. I usually tell them like just get the job and then I promise you everything will fall into place. Like once you get your schedule and you start doing day by day, like before you get the job, your mind's gonna be like, how am I gonna do this? How am I gonna do that? Like what? Oh, like I'm not gonna. I promise you, everything does fall into place. You know, you start getting the into the rhythm of it, and you know, like it gets easier. But you know, I'm not gonna lie. Sometimes it is a little challenging.
I mean, I know shops. I've worked at shops before where I mean, they tell you you're gonna get off at 5, and then surprise, we got to stay late, or got to
Yeah,
come in on Saturday. You got to come in on Sunday, so you kind of have to, you know, fix your schedule around, especially if you have
yeah.
kids, right?
Yeah, that's how it is for me right now. Usually I'll work Saturdays, but sometimes I would do, sometimes I don't. And they don't tell me till like the last minute, you know, like the Friday before I clock out. They're like, "Oh, you coming tomorrow?" And I'm like, "Yeah," you know. So I always have to make sure like I have a babysitter for every Saturday. And sometimes it's not possible. Like sometimes, like families out of town, and daycares are closed, and I don't leave my kids with just random people. You know, like so it's like sometimes I do have to tell my job like, hey, like I'm not gonna come tomorrow, and it's sometimes like I feel like damn, like but at the same time I'm like, man, you know what, like fuck it, like like my kids need me more. You know, like if I die right now. This job ain't gonna care about me. My kids are gonna care about me. So, sometimes I try to have that mentality and I don't try to prioritize my job too much. And some people see that as a bad thing, but I'm like, I don't know, man. Like me personally, I like as a mom, I always think about that. I'm like, I think about it like this, like when it's my time to go, when I'm dying, I'm not gonna sit there and think about all those hours I worked and all that work I did, the job I worked. I'm not gonna think about that. I'm gonna think about everything I did with my kids and the times and the memories with them. That's gonna be like my top priority in my head. So that's how like think about it when I think about like a job and a child, which is why I kind of like don't want to. I want to do refineries, but I don't because they're very like they take your entire time. So yeah, that's how it is for me.
And I think that more people need to hear what you're saying because for the longest time, that's pretty much how I lived. My first, I say, 7 years. That's how I'll prioritize work, and work was my life. And then if I could go on vacation, I went on vacation, or my
Yeah,
family would go. I would be in West Texas, and I gotta work. And now it's just like, bro, I'm taking a vacation on this day. Well, you can get fired. Okay, well, fire me. I'm not coming in. I'm gonna go on vacation, and if you got a job for me when I come back, good. If not, I mean, I'll find work somewhere else because, man, like you say, when you die, you're not gonna remember that you made a slick weld up in that scaffold. You're gonna remember, time with
yeah.
your family.
No, yeah, and honestly, like I'm not gonna lie, I kind of started getting into that mentality because I saw you talk about it one time how you're like missing vacations with your family for like your wife and your kids will go off and have these amazing times without you and how you kind of regret missing on that, and that kind of stuck with me. Like, hearing you say that, I was like, that's true. That's true. Like, if I gotta go like leave early a day because my son, he has like something going on in school and like he wants to see me there. Like he's not gonna remember how much I worked. I'm not probably gonna remember how much I worked, but I know he's gonna remember like, man, my mom showed up. So that I think about that time, like, man, I feel bad like not being here 24/7 at this job. But I'm like, but I feel worse for my kids. So I think about that time, like, you know what? If they ever let me go because of something like that, on to the next one. On like there's like 100 jobs in Houston, it'll be fine. Like I'll be fine.
So there in Houston, what is the on the low end? What are the shops paying on the low end hourly?
Okay, so man, I guess like the really low paying shops, they're gonna try to pay you, like let's say you're fresh out of welding school, and they know that you don't know too much. They might even start you like at 14 an hour. Like I've seen the one of my first jobs I had, I was getting paid eight. My very first job, I was getting paid 16, and then I moved on to to my second job and I got paid 18. But even at that second job where I was getting paid 18, I was getting paid 18 to weld stainless steel pipe that was getting x-rayed and
Wow.
UT'd and PT'd, and they never gave me a raise, which is why I ended up getting out of that job, because they were like not going over 18, at all. And in that same shop there was kids, teenage boys, like fresh out of high school, welding like flux core for $14 an hour. So, that's like the low end of what I guess like I've seen like shops pay people. And I mean, as far as like the high end, I think you would know more more than me, how much like higher jobs can pay. I've never been at a like super high paying job, to be honest, so I wouldn't know like what's the top that you can get paid like that.
And but what's the average you would say there in Houston?
Oh, in Houston here, from what I've seen, like when I've been looking for jobs and whatever, Um, it's usually like for what I do, like TIG welding, they're gonna try to pay you anywhere from like 25 to 32, like around there. Like if you have some kind of experience, like 25, 32 ish.
And you're working at least 50 hours, 40 hours?
Yes, yes. So in like every job I've had, I work at least, when work is slow, like 40 hours, but when work is good, 60 hours. But usually on average, they'll keep it like Monday through Friday, 10 hours a week, like 50 hours.
And for what you had to do, did you have to take a weld test?
Yes. I think just my very first job, they didn't like professionally well test me. It was just like we just want to see if you can do it type of thing, like
Okay.
but yes, at the my other jobs I've had, yeah, it's like they actually like tested me.
So what type of welding test do you normally take to like enter a shop?
So for it depends what I'm gonna do, but like if I'm gonna be doing like flux core, they usually want me to do uphill, like a 1 inch uphill flux core or overhead. And if it's gonna be for pipe, then they usually want it's always usually a 6G, either carbon or stainless, all the way out. But that's personally what I've had.
So, and how does it work? Like in the refineries, let's say you get hired on to do a shutdown or whatnot, and if you get repair, well, you have to fix it. You get another one, you get to fix it. But then if you get another one, you got to pick up your toolbox and go. Does that still apply working in the shop, or how do they work that?
Oh man, this is gonna sound so like, so well, how do I say it? It's gonna sound weird, but um the job that I did work at where they were x-raying every single pipe, I actually never failed an x-ray. To this day, I've never failed an x-ray, so I don't know if like they would have let me go after a certain amount, but I don't think so. I think in shops, I think they give you more chances. Because I never saw, I would see like sometimes they will come back, like certain pipes will come back like, oh, this one's not good, and from what somebody else did, and they just cut it open, fix it, send it back. I never saw anybody like, I guess, get in like trouble or get in like threatened to like, hey, this is like your last chance. I think in shops there's a little bit more liberty to learn and to like make mistakes. As in refineries, like yeah, like third time they're like, you gotta go.
So, how did you feel whenever the pipe came back and you didn't know who it belongs to, and then once you found out it wasn't yours, how did you feel?
Like a relief. I felt relieved, honestly. Like I think the very first pipe that I did that I knew was gonna be X-rayed 100%. Man, I was like sweating. I was sweating and I was like overthinking. I was like cleaning every single pass like to the core. I was like trying to like no undercut, and I took so long on that pipe. But I was like new to that job, and they knew I was pretty new to like welding, so they didn't like rush me too much. But man, that first one like really stressed me out. And then it came back and it was passed, and I felt really good. I was like, I didn't even believe it. I was like, ain't no way. Y'all did that thing wrong. Like, but But yeah, I'm like, and then they sometimes like if they would fail, I'll be like, like, is it mine? But I will have like the initials, and I'll be all right, it's not mine, so it's okay.
We all been there. We all been there
Yeah.
plenty of times. So have you ever messed anything up like really bad at work? I mean, I have even when I was a weld boss or whatever. I messed up a lot of things during my career. But have you ever messed something up working?
Um, I've definitely I'm sure I've messed up a lot of things. But I don't think I've ever made a mistake yet. So like significant where I was like, man, like I'm gonna get fired. It's like it's usually things that, I can cut back, open and fix that thing, fix it again. Um, it hasn't happened to me yet. I don't want to jinx myself, but it hasn't happened to me yet.
Okay,
But
good.
I have had mistakes all the time.
Yeah, we all have them. It's normal, and I
But
mean it's not the end of the world. Although whenever you're there, you think it's the end of the world, or even failing a welding test, which it's happened to me before, more when I started. But you always think it's the end of the world, and it's really not. There's always going to be another job, another weld test,
yeah,
another pipe you can weld.
another chance, yeah. I guess as far as like I guess mistakes, one thing that I used to do a lot whenever I was new to my jobs, I was like very fresh in the welding industry. I had a lot, a lot of really bad accidents. I would get injured so much. I was just always like working too fast. Like I felt like I had to overwork myself and keep up and like prove myself that I got this, that I can do it. And sometimes I'd be working so fast, like the wire will pew, like catch me, destroy my shirt, rip my freaking skin, and like I sometimes like I think I was working under a skid, and I tried to get out of it so fast I didn't see there was like an edge, and boom, like I banged myself, so I got a concussion out of that, and
Wow,
I had a pretty nasty bump for a long time. And even like a MIG welding, I think one time the gun fell back on me and it like burned my face. I had that scar for like months. I had like really bad stuff happen to me. That fucking cutting disc would like cut my finger open. Like I I was working too I was doing too much and I
that
wasn't
was
too
because your
careful.
your mind was probably working faster.
Yes.
Trying to work
Yeah.
faster than what you were doing, and maybe not
Yeah.
paying
And so
attention.
I had a lot of stuff happen to me. Thankfully now, it's not like bad anymore. Like it. I don't really think I have too many accidents now. Like I'm a little bit safer. Like I chill. I got it. Like I'm gonna get this done. Like I don't gotta go crazy and stuff. Like so I'm better at that now. I haven't had a serious injury in a while. Um, but yeah, that I guess that's like the kind of mistakes I would make a lot when I was like newer.
Okay, go. We're almost done. I just have a few more questions.
Mhm.
What would you say to the people that are going to welding schools that the welding schools might not be telling them, or what advice would you give them? Right now that they're in the process and they have probably thinking they're going to get out and start working. What is something that you would tell them?
So I guess advice that I guess like the school might not tell you. Ah, man. Well, like I guess number one, it is going to be a little bit hard to find a job. But like I said, keep looking, keep pushing, keep trying. One place doesn't get you, try the next, try the next. Don't give up. But also, what's really going to help you get a job is to make your connections while you're still in school. Like the other students there. Try to get to know them, try to get their numbers because sometimes they might have an uncle that's going to put them on as a helper, and sometimes they need two. And sometimes, your homeboy might be like, hey, come through, like make connections, make your friends. And if you don't get a job like that right away, don't give up. Keep trying, and keep trying.
Now, would you recommend this trade to women, or is it you think that not all women could do it, or would you say what, this is for women, women can do it just as much as men? What do you think?
So women can definitely do it just as much as men can. But I just think that before you get into it, you should know certain things that other girls don't talk about. A lot of girls here on social media that do a trade, they will like to share just the good things. They would like to share the paycheck and the good part of it. But I feel like before you make the decision to come into a trade, you should know that there's also certain negatives, as like a woman or a man. It's going to be tough on your body. It's a hard work. If it's hot, it's hot. If it's cold, it's cold. Like you got to know the injury part. I did, like, I guess the injury part was one thing. I was like, man, I'm tired of getting hurt. So I was like, I
Right.
didn't expect that to happen to me. Like, that wasn't something I took into consideration when I was like a student. I was like very like naive. But you also take into consideration, it's dangerous. It's dangerous. You can get hurt, and just take everything into account before you make the decision that you do want to do a trade. And you got to make sure that it's something you really want to do, that you're not just 100% going into it just because you're trying to make money, because you're gonna hate it. Like, you gotta like make sure it's something that interests you, that you're like, man, like, I really want to try that, I really want to do that. um Also money too, but like, make sure it's an actual interest, because women can definitely do it. I mean, me, weld by Sarai, a lot of other women, we're proof of that. But just know the pros and the cons too.
Right. I think, and good thing you mentioned Sarai. I think she posted one of her videos whenever she's in the shipyards, and then I think she blew her nose and a bunch of black snot came out. And I mean, those are things that, like you say, a lot of people
Oh
don't
yeah, yeah.
mention. You know, and I think that social media kind of, I don't know if it kind of lies to you a little bit or lies to kids a lot because they only
Hmm.
see the glamour, right?
Yeah.
Whenever they see the pipeliners out in West Texas and the lifted trucks and they got the music in the background
Yeah.
and they're in a pipeline and it looks so cool. But man, when you're out there, it's freaking hot, and then you get the sandstorms and you there 12 hours. And those are a lot of things that kids don't see.
Yeah.
It's good for us to show them that, there's also negative, aspects of working in the industry for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. And I guess a lot of kids will message me that same thing, like, "Oh, just got done with high school. Do you feel like I should do this?" I'm like, I feel like if you really want to do it, go for it. Yeah, try it, give it a chance. But or girls especially, they'll be like, "Oh, do you think I can do it if this or that?" And I'm just like, "Look, girl, I'm gonna be so real, and I'll tell them exactly how it is." I'm like, I like my job, I like what I do, but I don't want to weld forever. So unless I feel like you should always. I always tell them, because this is just my mentality. I'm like, I feel like you should have a plan. I feel like if you want to start welding, sure, weld for a few years, learn it, really try to like master your craft or whatever, but have a different plan. Like, I don't think you should just think about welding for the rest of your life till you retire, because that's tough on your body. That's really tough. And I always tell girls, especially, I'm like, have a plan, weld, and then what else do you want to do? Like, what you can branch out and do so many other things. You can do CWI, you can do what is it, undestructive testing, you can do teaching, like, there's other avenues. And I'm like, and I just want you to be aware of that before you choose to just like do welding.
Is there any other trades that you considered other than welding, or was just welding, what caught your eye?
So actually, I'm really really interested in becoming a CWI in the near future. I think I needed 3 years of welding experience to take the test. I would need one more year of experience, and then I can go take it. So that's honestly my next goal. If one of my other goals doesn't, I don't want to like say too much, but I do have like a plan soon. And if that doesn't work out, then CWI would be my next plan. But as far as like anything like that's not welding related at all, I don't think so. I'm not really into like construction or mechanics or anything like that. I think for me it was just like I really like the art of like welding.
Well, that's good. So all them people that comment on your posts and you're gonna be CWI whenever they go test in front of you, make sure you bust them, okay?
Yeah, I remember you.
Nah, that's good, man. Thank you so much for coming on. I know you got work, you got kids. I won't take too much of your time, but I really appreciate it, man. And right now, after I finish the recording, don't leave. I'm gonna finish it so I can get your information so I can send you some merch and stuff like that.
Okay. All right.
Anything
Well,
else you
and
want to say? You want to before we close it out?
just well, thank you for also doing this with me. I feel like I was able to share a lot of more things You were a really nice interviewee. You didn't rush me or anything. So thank you. Thank you for the chance to tell my story and give my advice.